Good morning, everyone. I want to welcome everyone to our newest episode of Meet NBPD. Today, we'll be doing the Juvenile Diversion and Assistance Program. Today, I have with me Chief Joseph Cordero, and I also have Maria Rosario of the North Star Learning Center. Good morning, Maria. Good morning, Chief.
Good morning.
Good morning, Maria. It's a pleasure to have you here on our show.
Thank you.
I know it took a little bit of prone to get you here, but maybe you could tell our viewers a little bit about North Star Learning and your role there.
Absolutely. So we are a nonprofit social service organization in New Bedford, and we've been around since 1975. We started out providing early education and care, and then evolved from there, understanding that while we were dealing with the issue of early education and care for working parents, we also wanted to provide some family support programs. Out of that, we grew into providing youth development programs where mentoring and youth stabilization were the focus. And then we evolved into school-based academic support programs because for most of our kids, an education is going to be the means out of their situation for them. And so understanding that education has to be a priority in all our programs, we then evolve into providing mental health services in a holistic way where education is also a primary focus in the way in which we deliver mental health services.
Wow, that is action-packed. That's a lot. My goodness.
It is a lot.
You got to take a few breaths to get that all out there. That's a lot of stuff that's going on. Maria, in your organization, you must see a lot of folks suffering from mental health issues. Would that be fair to say? And which really leads us to this program, the Juvenile Diversion Assisted Program. And maybe we can talk a little bit before we get into the roots, the nuts and bolts of the program, how we got this up and running. I know from our perspective in the police department, myself, we see it all the time. Am I right, Lieutenant Rodriguez?
Yes, sir.
And the challenges are facing our police officers with especially young children suffering from mental health. And how can we address it? We're kind of limited. We do a lot of things, and we try to do them well, but we're now experts when it comes to dealing with folks, especially in crisis.
Right.
We had started a program, the CCIT team here in New Bedford, but we need to take it to another step, and we're thinking about how do we bring a clinician on board. I was having a conversation with Denise Porcher, very grateful to her, unbeknownst to me. You were having very similar thoughts. I'll let you take it over from there and tell us how we got here so our viewers can understand.
Absolutely. And so one of the conversations that we were having with Denise and then with you, Chief, was the way in which we deal with our young people as it relates to the juvenile justice system. That we need to look at them in a holistic way, and that oftentimes when our young people are getting in trouble, there's something behind those issues, and it oftentimes can be mental health issues that haven't been addressed down to trauma. And so that conversation came out of you saying that you were noticing that that was an issue for the department, and me as a provider saying this is an issue that we need to deal with, and how do we partner up together so that we can start diverting some of these cases, and so that young people start getting what they need versus wasting time being involved in the court system, and now they're part of a system that has lifelong effects for them. And so it made sense to then collaborate and talk about providing mental health services in a holistic way, and how do we partner up so that I have a clinician who's based out of your stations working with your police officers answering these calls. You know?
Absolutely right. It's more than just the youth is misunderstood today.
That's right.
Actually, some of these young kids are suffering. They're suffering from real mental health issues and emotional issues. And I know Lieutenant Rodriguez, being on the streets for a long time, it's challenging for us. Am I right to try to?
No, that is correct, and I think it's a great partnership and collaboration because we want to equip our officers with all the tools that we're given many tools, but sometimes dealing with a individual who's going through a crisis like that, we're not really equipped to handle that. And I think the collaboration and partnership has been outstanding, and it's beneficial. It really is. It's all involved.
I absolutely agree, because it's been a win-win on many sides.
Yes.
We've had police officers who have said, my understanding of trauma is greater because of this program. And so that kind of win-win, everybody benefits from.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really given our officers the Tom Brady play action out there, because we don't have the tools, but now they have an option to get the clinician in and try to counsel this child,
Right.
maybe do a diagnosis,
Right.
Get them into wraparound services. And really what we're trying to accomplish here is what? We're trying to divert these kids from getting into the criminal justice system and then having a life of a negative interaction with the police.
Absolutely.
Maybe you could talk a little bit about that, Maria, and also the funding, how this funding came about and how fortunate we are, you know,
Absolutely.
for our funder.
Absolutely, and I think for us, in terms of the way that we look at young people and the work that we do, one of the things that we realize is that we can get young people to a certain level. But if they have a quarry or if they get in trouble at a young age, that's something that follows them forever. And so we've had young people who are coming to us saying, you know, I can't even get aid for college because when I was 18 and a half, I got in trouble. You know, and so that's an issue when if we could have dealt with that in a holistic way, because part of what was going on with that young man is that there was undiagnosed mental health issues. And so had that been addressed then, he wouldn't be in a situation at the age of 20-something where he can even seek, you know, scholarships because he now has a record. And so those are the kinds of lifelong effects that our young people are dealing with. And so out of that came this idea of really partnering up with the police station, and then who funds that? One of the most amazing foundations that we have locally is the Island Foundation, and the understanding of Denise Porcher, the executive director of these kinds of issue, is great. So it makes it easier for her to understand why this is an important thing to fund, because the impact of it is greater, and we'll be able to move the needle that way.
Let me just say, Denise Porcher and the Island Foundation,
Yeah.
thank you,
Thank
and really
you.
thank you, because you really are changing lives. And we're talking about changing the trajectory of these young people's lives. And sometimes we forget the challenges that these kids are going through, you know, when you're trying to go to school and learn, and you know, you had a loved one that's, you know, maybe overdosed at 3 a.m, and all the first responders are there trying to save their life, and how you're trying to process that at a young age,
and expect it to function
and be successful.
Absolutely.
And that's only one example of some of the challenges that some of our young folks are dealing with. And to have this opportunity where a clinician can really come out and try to dig deep into those weeds and get you to the help that you need, so we can give these young people the tools that they need, so that they can function and, more importantly, be successful. Absolutely amazing. Very grateful.
See our young people in the context of their family, in the context of the school, and in the context of their community. You know, we really need to see, you know, have strength-based lenses when we look at our young people, rather than pointing out the deficits. They know the deficits. We don't need to mention them 300 times. They know them because they live with them. So let's focus on the strengths that people have, and then we build from that.
I couldn't agree with you more. When you focus on only negative parts of your
Right.
life, you're only going to see the negative.
Absolutely.
You got to look at the positive and build on them. You're absolutely correct. Maria, how many other departments do you know that have a similar program like this?
So in Massachusetts, there's only 2 other programs that are like this. It's in Quincy and one near Worcester.
How fortunate we are to have you, Maria, in the position that you're in, to have this wonderful partnership and collaboration. Very grateful to you and to your organization, aside from this program, but for the work that you do and your folks do there every day as well. You know, our police officers do an incredible job, and of course, clinician Melissa is amazing. I know we're getting close to our break time, Lieutenant Rodriguez. I don't know if you got anything else you want to throw in here.
Well, I'd just like to add that I think I can't stress enough the importance of working together as a tandem, and even with other other agencies and entities. It really takes a village to raise a child, and it's a joint effort, you know. And sometimes
say it again, Nate.
It's a joint effort.
That's right.
And sometimes sometimes there's been a lack of understanding from a law enforcement perspective on how to deal, and when you encounter somebody who may be going through mental crisis, some type of crisis, it's encountering them and knowing what to do. And I think this has really been an amazing thing here. Working in collaboration.
Thank you, and I look forward to the continued collaboration.
We are so lucky in the city of New Bedford. I can't tell you how fortunate, from my perspective, the partnerships and collaborations that we have, of how many people in this city want to come together and help out. And this is one of many examples. We're very fortunate.
One of many.
One of very, very many. And you know, we're giving these kids a a chance, and that's what we really want to do. We want to give them a chance. And our offices, it can be very frustrating for us when you want to help, and you just don't either have the expertise, the tools, or the options. And now, what a wonderful option!
Because you have a community that also wants to help and wants to partner up with the police department too.
I know you're busy, Maria. We thank you for coming. I know you want to get back out in the field, roll up your sleeves, and get to doing the work that you do, which is helping people. So thank you so much for being our guest here today, and for your friendship, your partnership, and our collaboration.
I want to thank you. We all thank you, Maria, for the work you do in your organization. That being said, we're going to take a short break. We'll be right back with our second part of Meet NBPD, where we'll have Jimmy Owens, also of North Star Learning, with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Taya Leone, and you're watching New Bedford Cable Network. Good for you.
Hi, my name is Augusto Dua Freitas, and I'm a videographer / producer for New Bedford Cable Network. Been working in television for 35 years, originally with Media One Metro News. I was a segment producer for such news segments as Parents and Babies, and back then, the original police show, Law and Order. But more recently, I've been working on another police show called Meet NBPD, with the pleasure of working with Police Chief Joseph Cordero, capturing police departments such as the K-9 Dog Team and the Maritime Police Dive Team. I've been blessed working with New Bedford Cable Network in my city, for my city, networking with other towns. It's exciting working in a city by the water with so much history to share. Our staff captures stories and moments that bring pride to our people of New Bedford. Come and see us. Check us out. And if you're interested in television, come and join our team. For New Bedford Cable Network, yours truly, Augusto Freitas.
The problem is the public makes healthcare decisions based on how they feel. I have a tendency to call it the I feel good syndrome. If I feel good, how could there be anything wrong with me? I feel great. I just did full court basketball or 18 holes of golf. Most people can lose up to 80-90% of their kidney function and feel great. You can't make healthcare decisions solely based on how you feel.
Welcome back, everyone, to the second half of this episode of Meet NBPD. This segment on Juvenile Diversion and Assisted Program. Here with us today is Jimmy Owens of North Star Learning. Jimmy, welcome.
Thank you. Welcome to you, too. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate
Welcome,
being
Jimmy.
here.
Thank you for taking time from your very busy schedule.
Thank you.
Jimmy, if you could, can you just tell our audience a little bit about yourself and what you actually do at North Star Learning, please?
Sure. I'm the Director of Clinical Services at North Star Learning Centers. We basically look at the entire gamut of mental health services and substance abuse. We look at the entire lifespan. We look at school-based services, home services. We look at juveniles specifically to kind of work with them around some of the challenges that they're having. But we go through the entire lifespan, from young children, from early education and care, all the way through the adult years, even to our older populations. So whatever they have as a mental health issue, challenges and so forth, the clinic is prepared to kind of handle that.
Yeah,
That's great.
That's wonderful, Chief. They follow you all the way through. That's amazing. It's amazing.
Like that continuity. Jimmy, maybe we'd like to get into the nuts and bolts of the Juvenile Diversion Assisted Program, so that our viewers at home can really understand what we're doing, what some of our successes are, and it's amazing that only 1 of 3 in Massachusetts,
Right.
and we have it right here in New Bedford. So can you just explain to them a little
Sure.
bit how this works?
Well, I think the best way to kind of really get into it is kind of give some backdrop around why the program in the first place. One of the things that I think is essential for people to know is that, in general, the national statistics show that about 70% of young people who are involved in the criminal justice system, the juvenile system, has at least one diagnosable mental health disorder. At least one.
What was that number again?
70% of our youth that's involved in the system.
70%, man.
And they have at least one diagnosable mental health disorder. And about 25% have the more chronic ones. So when you look at that challenge by itself nationally, you can see why a program like the Diversion and Assistance Program is so essential. This is some of the backdrop that we have young people in the system that can be further re-traumatized by just their involvement in the system that already has some level of mental health or substance abuse issues.
And we're not doing them any good just by pushing them through the system.
Right, and I think that's the
70%.
tenet. Yeah, that's a
7
huge
out
number.
of 10.
Yes. At least one diagnosable disorder
That is going untreated,
that's untreated.
unlooked at.
And
Just-
probably is their entry point into the system. It was probably how the system how they got involved in the criminal justice system was through maybe some acting out behaviors or some of these mental health challenges that they're having
Because of the illness.
because of the illness. And so when you look at that and then you look at the more chronic ones, those who are a little bit more extensively involved with mental health issues, you can see even 25% of that number is still a high number. So what we hope for with the Diversion and Assistance Program is to be able to curtail that, at least be able to see it, and if we can find a way to kind of look at that, we can design a community-based service model that'd be a much more effective way of kind of treating the mental health and substance abuse issues for youth, and be able to start to curtail them from being involved in the system any further.
Instead of just pushing them right
Just
along.
pushing them through.
This assembly line. So how is that working right now? We have a clinician that works out of the police department,
Absolutely.
Melissa,
Yes.
who's doing an incredible job.
Absolutely.
Maybe you could explain that to our viewers so they understand. And
Sure.
Lieutenant Rodriguez, jump in there at any time, how this works operationally.
Yes. Well, the logistics of the program kind of works like right now we have a clinician who we wanted to make sure has the credentials in Massachusetts that will really help with the program when you talk about sections and talk about going to crisis center and being able to really assess whether or not the individual is having significant mental health issues or substance abuse. We want to have a person who's really well versed in the field and very experienced. So Melissa Costa, who's also an LICSW, which is a licensed independent clinical social worker, has that background to be able to kind of bridge that gap of services, to be able to entertain notions with the crisis center when kids or youth are having those kind of challenges. But the logistical aspect is to have her available about 20 hours or so a week at times in which the police department particularly may have some challenging calls and ride-alongs and so forth, that she can kind of get out there and be able to really do the work. Through the invitation, obviously, of the police officers, that she would be able to assess a case at any scene, to be able to say, hey, wait a minute, this may be more of a mental health issue, and maybe we can use some of the diversion criteria to be able to help that young person. One of the things that we found in our research is that we want to look at 11-year-olds to 24-year-olds. I think that was a legitimate age group because one thing you find at 11-year-olds, they are entering our middle schools. Yes. And usually when you're coming out of the elementary setting where things are a little bit more coddled and supported in the elementary setting, when you get into that middle school setting, it's a brand new world for a lot of our youth. And these are pre-youth almost when you look at it. And they have some challenges that if they have behaviors at the elementary level, you clearly see them exhibited at the middle school level. Yes. And so you may think it's all behavioral, but it may be the onsets of some other behaviors that maybe was just kind of, like I said, not seen before. So we want to look at the 11-year-olds going forward. And the reason why we went as high as 24 is because there are many mental health issues that kind of have their early onset around 17 to like 19-year-olds, where you might get that schizoaffective disorders, you might get the bipolar kicking in, schizophrenia kicking in. Those are the ages you'll see the onset of those mental health issues, and they will not look like that if you're not trained already in that area. They'll be more disruptive, more violent. It could be hallucinations. It could be an assault. It could be a domestic dispute. And these are all criminal issues, and that could easily give them an entry point into the system. Sure. When in fact it's something else.
Jimmy, so our viewers kind of understand back at home, the way this is working is Melissa Costa, the clinician, works out of the police department right now.
Yes.
And she rides along with police officers across the city, all 3 police stations. She goes to all of them.
Absolutely.
And she's building relationships with the officers. And when they go on a call that they require, she gets over there. And how does that work? And how does those 2 roads cross so our viewers at home can really get a flavor and understanding for the value of this program?
I really hope the viewers can really get that from this conversation, because I think that's like the sweetest part of this whole situation. Melissa gets a chance to ride along with the officers to a scene, and the officer can assess the scene, make sure it's a safe situation for her to get involved. It's not like she gets in front of a police officer and says, I got this, nothing like that, but she kind of goes by the lead of the police officers who also engage in the fact that they want her assistance in those kind of cases. Which, if I could just make a note, that is to me one of the biggest pieces here, because we have police officers who are accepting the fact that, hey, maybe I like to have an additional tool brought to the scene that can help me assess whether or not this is a criminal situation or something else. The fact that our officers are willing to do that, I think, is something special that's coming out of the leadership.
We got
like that.
wonderful men and women serving for sure.
Definitely.
Oh,
but anyway,
back to you,
yeah. So Melissa gets to the scene and she's able to interact with the individuals who might be based on a call. The call was for that respondent, that individual. She can assess whether or not, if this is a mental health situation, she can do all of the assessments. If it's an SI situation like suicidal, or the person's maybe very violent, the person's very angry. If there's what I call ancillary situations, such as a children or a spouse or a partner in the home that may be being affected by the fact that somebody is going to get arrested. Maybe the person is legitimately getting arrested for something that's unrelated, but the family and those left behind are having challenges. Melissa get a chance to kind of go in and do that work as well. But she can do the assessment right there on the spot. If the person has to go to emergency services, she can broker that situation as well, kind of help the officers out, and that's just something that it's just been phenomenal for us.
Right on the street, right in the house.
Yeah. So in essence, this streamlines a lot of the. I'll give you an example with having to go to crisis center, having to go to St. Louis. So with Melissa being there, it streamlines that whole process.
Absolutely, okay. And because of her familiarity with emergency services and the protocols that happens there, she has the ability and the credentials to be able to do that as well. So
and also section, can she?
Right, because of her credentialing, yes, she has that opportunity in the situation to be able to do that. And I also, just not to cut you, I'm sorry. One of the other things I thought was very unique about is that even if she senses that those individuals need continual services, within 24 hours, we're able to connect them to the community-based services. If it's the clinic, if it's other kind of services they may need, we can do that within 24 hours.
So it's that follow-up, right? That continuum of follow-up, care, and help.
Yes.
That is amazing. I mean, wouldn't that have been beneficial too as a young patrol officer out in the street?
You took the words right
out
of my
mouth. You're not young. You're still young.
I'm still young. Yeah, I think so. But it would have been important because we see that a lot in our profession. And a lot of times we're not sure how to handle and deal with a situation like that. And I think with Melissa being there and working in conjunction with our department, I think it brings such a wonderful element as far as being able to diagnose, or maybe not diagnose, but be able to assess the situation. Whereas maybe we couldn't because we don't have the expertise and we're not in that field. We may. It might be the perspective to us might be different. Where she's there, and she can say, "Hey, there's something else going on."
Our option was arrest.
Arrest.
Bring them into the system, and then we're done with it until they come back around. We see them again the next day, or the following week, or the next month.
True.
So maybe we could talk a little bit about that. Since the program started, Jimmy, what does the numbers look like? Are they favorable? Are they showing that we're on the right track, or do we need to tweak this?
Well, it definitely shows that we're on the right track. I think that based on some of the engagements that we've had up until this point, some of the statistical information I've been looking at, there's some areas that obviously we can continue to tweak and kind of move forward, but we've been able to impact about 60 different cases from what I've gathered, and the outcomes I'm looking at where they're at. And one of the biggest pieces that we don't want to see a situation where they're constantly getting reoffending or being engaged in the system over and over, like the recidivism process. But we're finding right now the ones that we haven't, that are accepting treatment and are going through the process, have not reoffended, which is a really good thing. It's not you're getting repeat calls on these particular youth. That was one of the goals of the program, is to be able to reduce young people from getting to the deeper end of the system and kind of do some things on a community-based level to kind of help that out. The other thing was to be able to lower costs, obviously, so they're not straddle with that, but a big part was also making sure they had equal access. A lot of young people don't have the same opportunities of getting access to community services that can actually change and better their lives and their families' lives, and that's a big challenge.
Do you have any numbers for us, Jimmy? How many cases have we dealt with out there?
We've had, like I said, I think at the last count I had, we had 60 cases. We had about 14 of those cases that actually had to go into emergency services, where Melissa had to look at going into the crisis center and so forth. We had about 25 cases that joined right into the community-based services, counseling and so forth. They kind of went that way with the various agencies within the city. Because if something even that North Star doesn't do, we're not removed from not saying, hey, let's call somebody else to get this service connected. It's all about making sure that the youth and their family has the right services they needed. So we've been following that. I think the part that is a little challenging for us, where we may have to look at tweaking, is those who may, when you feel better, you feel like, okay, I'm good, thank you very much, and they want to move on. We want to kind of keep them a little bit longer sometimes. So we may have to look at some tweaking a little bit there, how we can make the services longer for some of them that might need to really stay engaged in a longer period of time. So we haven't really made that strong connection around the back end on the law enforcement piece as far as like the court piece. So I think we have some conversations there that might help a little bit more. So, but they're doing really well. I mean, the ones who are accepting services, they've done what they had to do, and I think that helps.
That is amazing. Jimmy, we're coming close to the end of our time here. I know you've been around a long time. You've been doing this work and doing amazing work. So in your time, have you seen anything like this? And I know you're probably coming to a time you're going to be looking to go into that sunset, Panama or someplace like that
someplace
warm.
Nice, yeah.
But
nice and warm, right?
What could you give us on that? Because we are coming to the end of our time here.
When you say, have I ever seen anything like this, as far as the programmatic pieces, or just the way we see our young people
This
functioning
level
today?
of operational clinical services and collaboration.
I think
with
this is
law
really
enforcement agency.
cutting edge stuff. I really hope that this New Bedford particularly can be a model to so many other cities that have similar challenges, because we have significant challenges here, but I think this is exactly what we're looking at to combat those challenges. I think this is obviously the way to go. I've not seen a lot that has this much wraparound piece to it, but it has a lot to do with the commitment of the players at the table who are talking about these services. Those, again, I know you gave kudos to our funders before, but I'll shout out for them again, the Island Foundation and South Coast Community Impact Grant. I mean, they have been, part of this emerging process.
Lifesavers.
Yes.
They were lifesavers.
And so we're just hoping that everybody else will hear this and continue and foster this program, because it's definitely a unique program that's going to make a difference.
Great, Jimmy. We're coming to the end. I'm going to hand it back over to Lieutenant. Again, just to reemphasize what you said, thank you, Denise Boucher and Allen Foundation, for really life-saving, especially when the funding was coming to the end a few weeks ago when she came and saved us.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Jim, for being there. If you can wrap us up, Lieutenant Rodriguez.
Yeah, just a great partnership, and I hope it continues. I want to thank everyone for being here today for this episode of Juvenile Diversion Assisted Program. It's a wonderful thing, and I can only pray it continues. We want to thank everybody. Until the next time, meet NBPD.
See you then. Tune in.